So I was just thinking, I know a few folks that are graduating right now, and as I talk to them, it reminds me of a time when I was younger, and you ask yourself, people are asking you, as they're asking the graduates right now, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? What are you going to do with the rest of your life? What do you want to be when you grow up? Another question for you today, what is God calling you to? What is God calling you to right now? Whether you're 19 or whether you're 90, what is God calling you to now? What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? What's God calling you to? Sometimes that can be a little bit of a different question, isn't it? Between what do you want to do versus what is God calling you to. And I just don't mean your career. A lot of times we just think about that. We just think about the career. But there's other things God's called us to. Sometimes our career is just how we provide for our family, just how we make ends meet. But our purpose, our calling, it is something else. What is God calling us to? So, the book of James. James, hey big dog, I'll drive from here. I got it. We're good, all right? Thank you very much for helping, Deb. I wasn't very clear this morning. That was my bad, but I got you. James 4, 13 through 17. Look here, you who say, today or tomorrow we're going to a certain town and will stay there a year. We will do business there and make a profit. How do you know what your life will be like tomorrow? Your life is like the morning fog. It's here a little while, then it's gone. Right? Guys, I'm turning 40 this year. How did that happen? My wife's a cougar. She's already 40. Thanks for the laughter. But am I wrong? It just goes by so fast, and it seems like it goes faster. It seems like it took a long time to get to the age 20. It took a real long time to get my driver's license. Call it what age you want. It was 16 for us back then. But it took a long time to get to that, and I blinked. And I realized that in 6 years, my oldest graduates from high school. I'm like, what? How is this all happening? How's this happening so fast? Let's keep going. Your life's like a morning fog. It's here a little while, then it's gone. What you ought to say is, if the Lord wants us to, we will live and do this or that. Otherwise, you are boasting about your own pretentious plans, and all such boasting is evil. Remember, it is sin to know what you ought to do and then not to do. It is sin to know what you ought to do and then not do it. My advice right now to the high schoolers in my life, the graduates, it's interesting too, because I've noticed some things that have changed. A lot of our students from Prairie Central, when they go to college now, they're going in as sophomores. Some might even be going in as juniors, is that correct? They've got a lot of college hours already in. When I went to IU, I didn't have no credits to mine. I had like 8 credits. So I knew I was going to be at IU for 4 years. I had a little bit of time to declare majors and stuff. And now the kids are like, they kind of got to be on a fast track. They're going to declare majors. Now, I sense, whatever the situation is, I sense sometimes tension. Like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? With graduates, with anybody, what am I doing with my life? What am I going to do with the rest of my life? What's God calling me to? My advice is just be at peace with the next step that God's calling you to. What's your 20-year plan? 20-year plan? I don't know what I'm having for breakfast tomorrow. Just be at peace with the next step that God's calling you to take. I find often in life, that's really how our relationship with the Lord works. Sometimes He says, hey, points way down the road. Often it's just the next step in front of you. Hey, don't worry about 20 years from now, but your next step. Okay, but what's the step after that, Lord? I'll tell you later. Just take the next step. And sometimes it may be something completely not what we're expecting, like that second step. What's the next step? Be at peace with that, what God's calling you to take. Because things change. Am I right? Things change quickly. In your career, the company gets bought out. They're downsizing. You get a call from your vendor. They want you to come work for them. Who here, how many of you 20 years ago imagine you would be doing the career that you're doing right now? Exactly. Often things change. Maybe not necessarily with your job, but in life, things change. Am I right? Fog moves. So we're talking about change. Fog moves. It changes. It shifts. Relationships change. The people we thought were going to be with us are not with us. The ministries we thought we were going to be a part of have changed. Just a few years ago, I was talking to a young person, and they were struggling with, and they're kind of stressed out about where the Lord is calling them to, and then what their path and journey would look like, and this and that. And I just kind of made the cute remark, like, hey, nobody knows nobody can predict the future. We don't know where we'll be in 10 years. And they looked at me and they said, you know what you'll be doing in 20 years. At that time I was running Simon & Harris Construction. On what we had built that for 10 years. What she didn't know is just during that period of life, my business partner and I just started conversations about, is the Lord calling us into different directions right now? Now this thing we built, are we going to keep doing this, or do you sense God's calling you this way and I'm going this way? We had tried so hard to build this business, and we did, and whatever happened, and let's do something different. God calls us to different things. Things change. I remember at a pretty young age, feeling God's, doing something in my heart. You call it calling me to ministry, you can call it what you want to, doing something in my heart. And I had my mentors openly calling me into the pastorate. And I was like, nah, that's not probably what's for me. I know I'll be a church leader somehow, but, I'm going to be an attorney. I'm going to be a lawyer. I went to IU expecting to be a lawyer, quickly realized then that, and I wanted to be a federal judge specifically. I wanted to be a federal judge. I was going to do it. I told you I was going to do it. And then I got to business school, and I kind of like business. So then I'm going to go to business. I'm going to be a Fortune 500 executive. And then I get a call from that same pastor just as I'm about to graduate. He called, and this is the kind of weird stuff that the Lord does. He calls me up and says, Josh, our church was growing. The church was getting close to like 2,000 people at that time in North Carolina. He says, Josh, I'm going to need a junior high youth pastor when you graduate, same time. You want it? I think the Lord's calling you to this. I'm like, man, I told you no, brother, but I love you. And you know what? Because of my respect for you, I'll pray about this. So I prayed about it. And the Lord just started speaking to me about being called to this. And fine. So I go back to my business school. My buddies are going to work for Intel and this and that. I'm like, Josh, what are you thinking about doing? I'm like, well, I'm thinking of being a youth pastor. I'm like, what? What? You're going to be a youth? Things change. And then my buddy gives me another call in the middle of that school year and said, Josh, about that job. Yeah? The recession's really hit our church pretty hard. And we don't have the funds for that anymore. So we're not going to be hiring anybody. So I'm like, Lord, what are you doing here? So I had to ask myself, is the Lord called me to ministry or not? But so I started dipping my toes back out of the water, looking for a job in business. And it was crazy. It was a recession. A lot of things were going on economically. So finally, I find myself in an interview. This guy, he's a believer. He said, I would like to offer you a job today. But it's my understanding you're also considering going to the pastorate? You know, it looks like you've applied to some youth ministry positions. Yes, that's true. And he said, so I'm not going to offer you that job today. I want you to go home and pray about it, and then come back. If you still want this job, come back. Jerk. I kid. He was right. He was right. So then I started applying to youth ministry jobs, and then I decided I'm going to be the pastor of a mega church. That's what I was going to do. I was going to be the next Rick Warren, the next whatever you're going to be. I was going to be the pastor of a mega church. Long story short, then I found myself selling manufacturing. So I went back into business for make a long story short. I went back into business working for a big company selling manufactured housing, and I hated my job. Then something happened one day. This charismatic lady, she's a Christian, a believer, and she said, I told my Sunday school class, you're going to sell me this home, and this is going to happen. You're going to do this. I said, I'm trying to make this work, but I don't know that I can make it work. She said, no, the Lord told me you're going to. Okay, Mrs. Jane Doe. Okay, God bless you. We'll pray for this. And sure enough, the Lord took her home. I won't go into the details of that, but I was amazed by how it happened. The deal was dead. It was done. I get a call from a corporate that said, we can make this deal work. And I hated my job at this point. I mean, I was miserable. And I felt the Lord tug at my heart in that moment. He said, you're going to be involved in housing. Lord, I'm not a carpenter. I'm not, you know what? But then you get, I just thoroughly enjoyed taking that woman and taking her out of the housing situation she was in and putting her in another one. The Lord just tugged in my heart slightly. Just like my buddy said, pray about it, Josh. Pray about this position. He began to tug at my heart. We wanted to move home and start a family, so we built and grew an innovative housing business. We did that for 10 years. I became a volunteer pastor here, still running 2 businesses. And then one day Dana comes up to me and she says, Josh, the church needs more of your attention. You need to go there part-time. What a mean thing to say. I was like, what do you mean? How do I have time for this? Sure enough, then me and my business partner, he started feeling Lord. He started feeling being called in a different direction, doing different things. Now he's a YouTube sensation, believe it or not, of all things. You can't make this stuff up. And then I'm at a book fair. I don't know what the heck it was. It was in school, one of those events that had the dome. Okay? Guys, people don't understand this about me. They don't believe me. I'm an introvert. Super introverted. Big crowds, when there's lots of noise, and I don't hear well. So going to those little things at the school and all the kids are running around playing their games, they're all down at this level. They're like, nah, 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 nah. I'm like, what'd you say? Where'd you go? Where'd you go? And you're holding wet painted crafts. Any dad's been there? Everything's covered in glue. They want dad to hold it, right? Having a wonderful time. You know, the kids just run up behind you and, I need more money. I need more money for the tickets. Where are the tickets? Just take my money. Can we go home? I don't know what's going on. And I saw Habitat for Humanity booth over there, and I used to be on the board of directors because of everything I was doing. I couldn't do that anymore. And I walked up to them, and they said, hey, did you hear Sue's retiring? That's the executive director. Sue's retiring this year. We don't know what we're going to do. And immediately, I just felt, not a tug, I felt not a string in my heart, I felt a rope in my heart just go boom, like the Lord saying, here boy, come on. It's like, wow. And we were going home, and I looked at Dana and I said, so Sue's retiring, and going to be hiring somebody. And she's looked at me and I looked at her. So now here I am as a part-time bivocational pastor and a part-time executive director for our local Habitat for Humanity. And you know what I've realized? In 8 years, my youngest graduates. Then what? We'll be empty nesters. That's for old people, not for us. I said old people, not for me. Life changes now. I just told you that whole story because life changes quickly and fast. Life changes, and sometimes it can be unpredictable. What's going to happen in 8 years? Where's the Lord calling us to? Back to James. Life is like fog. It's always changing, it's shifting, it's unpredictable. Some of y'all say, well, you know, I've had the same job for my whole life and this and that. Yeah, do you know anybody who used to work at GE? We all know someone who works at GE, right? They don't have a job anymore. Life changes unexpectedly sometimes. Sometimes you can see it coming, but sometimes not. And once again, it's a lot more than just your job. It's about everything that's going on in life. Sometimes you find yourself at a funeral that you didn't expect to be at this funeral. Not this early, not this young. Your friends move, they get another job, things happen. You find new friends, some friends leave, but life changes. Life changes. So, I used to be that guy. I remember being 18 cocky, 39 and cocky. Look here, you say today or tomorrow we're going to a certain town, we'll stay there a year, we'll do business there and make profit. I got a plan. I've got a plan, it's going to work out, I'm going to see that it works out. God laughs at our plans. Am I right? God laughs at our plans. The truth is this. Your life is like fog. Your plans are contentious. Let me close with this. Remember, it's a sin to know what you ought to do and then not do it. It's a sin to know what you ought to do and then not do it. We often think of sin, generally speaking, there's two kinds of sins. There's sins of commission. Sins of commission is something that I know I shouldn't do, but I do it anyhow. So I steal Pat's tractor. I know I shouldn't do it, but I'm going to do it anyhow. That'll be a sin of commission. There's also a sin of omission. It's where I'm supposed to do something, but I don't do it. Where I'm going to sit back on this one. I will argue that often we sin more that way than we have more sins of omission than sins of commission. Because it's easy to do nothing, right? It's easy to sit back and do nothing. Oh, we started this in school, right? Somebody's being bullied. They're not bullying me. I'm not sticking up for them. The Lord's called me to this or to that. That's not for me. I got 100 excuses. Sins of commission and omission. That's what the Lord's saying here. The sin, know what y'all do, not do it. Forget about your plans. What are the Lord's plans for your life? If the Lord wants. Jeremiah 18, 1 through 6. The Lord gave another message to Jeremiah. He said, go down to the potter's shop, and I will speak to you there. So I did just as he told me, and found the potter working at his wheel, but the jar he was making did not turn as he had hoped, so he crushed it into a lump of clay again and started over. Then the Lord gave me this message. And here are the prophets speaking to all of God's people of Israel. Then the Lord gave me this message. O Israel, can I not do to you as this potter has done to this clay? As the clay is in the potter's hand, so are you in my hand. Well, this is the message that we can apply to our lives today. Has anybody ever here worked with clay in a wheel? Anybody? Have we seen it done? Oh, yeah, you probably have. Yeah. I have not done that. I have not done that. But I've seen it, right? They start spinning that wheel and they mold it into what they want to do. And in this illustration here, God is the potter and we are the clay. And James said, if the Lord wants, we'll go here and do that. Do you have that attitude? Do you have that heart? But how do you get that heart? Right here. You be like clay. Josh, things just didn't turn out the way I thought they would do. I mean, things are kind of a mess. You know what? Just as this person here, things did not turn out as I hoped. Or as even the Lord hoped. I made a mess of things. God's not done with you yet. And maybe things haven't gone awry. Maybe things aren't just all screwed up. But still, How do you get to that heart place of being in tune with the Lord and following Him? My answer would be to be like clay. To be like clay. Because it's not about the clay becoming what the clay wants to be. It's about what the potter wants the clay to be. So be like clay. Let's talk about clay for a little bit. We need to be pliable in God's hands. Are you pliable or are you rigid? Are you stuck? You know what I'm saying? I have my plans. I know what I like and what I don't like. And just, no, I'm pliable. Are you willing to try new things that God puts in your path? Are you open to new things? I know as I get old and crusty, I become like, I don't like these things, and I have to, you can still try new things. The other day, we had a little impromptu campfire at our house. It was a school night. And, the kids were like, let's do s'mores. I'm like, do s'mores, you get it out, fine, do s'mores. We're out of graham crackers, Dad. Okay, so we're not doing s'mores then, I guess. And Dana says, we have other kinds of crackers, like Ritz's and, something like, what kind of white trash people are we that we're going to make s'mores with Ritz crackers? I ain't trying that. Here comes our kids, they're Ritz crackers. My good golly. This is what we come to. Roast. You need a graham cracker for s'mores. That's the way it is. I'm rigid in this. Getting Ritz's out. Salt and everything. So there's Scarlett over there eating her Ritz cracker s'more. Enjoying it. Like, you really are liking that thing, or are you just saying this to save face? I can tell she's liking this thing. She said, Dad's just like a salty s'more. You and I've realized over the past few years, people are putting salt in desserts now. You notice that? Salted caramel ice cream and blah, blah, blah. When I first started, who wants salt in their desserts? Apparently I do. It's delicious. Fine. Scarlett, I'm going to try one too. My gosh, I don't care if you want to call me white trash or not. A Ritz s'more is pretty good. It is like a salty s'more. It's good. There's other things I think that the Lord puts in our path that's more important than s'mores. He tugs at our hearts to go on mission trips. He tugs on our heart to volunteer at the church in certain ways that maybe we feel uncomfortable with at first. Sometimes you get a call at work from the other department that you never worked in, and they need help with a project, and they need some hands, and can you come over there and help? But you don't know anything about that, but maybe you should give it a shot. Maybe you'll like that. Maybe you don't know. You got to be pliable. But that's how one of the things I tell young people often is, look, especially in business, you get in with a company, we'll say you hate your job, fine, but you'll see a department that you think that's interesting, or your vendor, like, I really want to work for that vendor. One of my kids used to be in my youth ministry, just got married yesterday, and I haven't been in touch with him for years. He's a grown man now, and I just looked at all the jobs he's had, and you can see it. He had a job in somewhere else, he went to a company, he was in this department for a while, he went to this department, now he's the head of this department. Things happen. Are we pliable? Are we pliable people? Are we discovering who God wants us to be? You learn things about yourself, right? I learned a long time ago, I'm not mechanical. I don't know how things, stop laughing. Sometimes I don't understand how things go. I can change my tires, and I can change my oil. Beyond that, I have to YouTube everything. Even as a child, I remember, me and my cousin playing with Transformers. I don't know how they transform. Will you fix it? I'm not mechanical. I learned that about myself. Helping out the guys at Anderson Woods the other day. They got the tractor out there, we're picking up logs, getting the chains and this and that. They're like, don't put the chain on the cylinder. I'm like, I don't know what the cylinder is. I probably put a chain on it. I'm going to stand back there watching, taking pictures. What? We discovered who God's made us. And we also understand things that we do like, that we are good at. I've discovered myself, the Lord's given me the ability to to find efficiencies. I know that might. The Lord will show you if you're open to ideas and pliable. He'll show you what you're good at, what you're not good at, who He's created you to be. What has God impressed upon your heart? Often we hear people say, what do you love? You know, when people are deciding what ministries to go in or how to volunteer or what jobs to take, you know, what do you love? That's a great question. Let me tell you another question that's great. And we don't ask, what do you hate? Go to war against it. What is it that drives you crazy, that breaks your heart? What do you hate? Go to war against it. I hate the fact that good folks can't find decent housing. So I found me a little outfit called Habitat for Humanity. So I hate that. So I'll go to war against it. I hate the prosperity gospel. You know what the prosperity gospel is? It's a false gospel that says if you have enough faith, if you give enough to your church, pray hard enough, or whatever, you'll be healthy and wealthy. So if you're not healthy and wealthy, that's your fault. You got sin in your life, you don't have enough faith. You haven't noticed, they crucified most of the disciples. I think they're pretty faithful people. That was not a very healthy choice. The prosperity gospel, I hate it. It's not true. It's you know what I see? As we see the Christianity spreading in a lot of third world countries, you know what's taking hold? The prosperity gospels. So we have to ask ourselves, in those countries, is the gospel really taking hold at all? Because that's a false gospel, and I hate that. And I tell you that in a few years, I'll be an empty nester, 8 years. Dana loves international missions. I don't get to go with her as much. But maybe in the future, that could be something the Lord just slowly begins to tug at your heart. Because I would love to teach in some different places once in a while. And defeat the prosperity gospel. What's God calling you to be when you grow up? What's He calling you to? What's He drawing you to? Are you pliable? Or are you stuck? Have you made too big of a mess? You know, I've made a mess for the Lord. That's not, He's saying here, I can take old, messed up clay and make it into a beautiful piece of pottery. Be pliable. Are you open to new things? Are you open to what the Lord wants to do in your life? Or do you not trust Him? Is He lying here? I mean, I'm just asking you an honest question. Do you think the Lord is lying to you here? Yeah, I do. This is who I am. I can't do those things. It's just not going to happen. I don't know what that is. It's the tacos I ate last night. It's not the Lord pulling on my heart. It's something else. I don't know. Are you open? Are you pliable? Are you willing to hear the Lord as He speaks to you? This week, ask yourself, am I pliable? Am I willing to listen to the Lord? Am I trusting in Him? Do I see myself as a big clump of clay that He can mold into something purposeful and useful? God has a purpose for you. If you are still here and breathing, God has a purpose for you. I can promise you that. I don't know what it is, but He has a purpose for you. Or you wouldn't be here. Believe that this week. Let's pray. God, we love You. We thank You for calling us to ministry. You've called us all to ministry. If we're Christians, You've called us to ministry. Maybe not vocationally, but You have a plan and a purpose for us. So I pray, Father, that we would be a people who search our hearts and ask the tough questions. Are we pliable? Are we willing to try things that You put in our path? Are we willing to step out of our comfort zones? We like our comfort zones, Father. Reveal to us what it is You're doing in our life. Reveal to us that next step, Father. And when You show us that next step, Father, give us the courage and the faith to take it. It's in the name of Jesus I pray. Amen.